are the Dream Team, and Caitlin. This is Junior, Maria, Danielle, Adrina, and Nafpri, and today we're going to be talking about legalizing prostitution. For those of you who do not know, prostitution is interacting in sexual relations for the exchange of money. For those who are in this work field, they are widely known to be called prostitutes. So, many people believe that prostitution should become legal, and others believe that it should remain illegal. If prostitution should become legal, then there would definitely have some negative aspects of this. Some examples would be an increase of child prostitution. It encourages men to buy women for sex in a more socially acceptable setting, and it also does not enhance one's choice. Even though these are some negative aspects, there are positive ones as well. Some examples would be a decrease in violence in society. It aids in the economy, and it also helps with health. Now, Junior will be telling us about the history of prostitution.
I will be covering the basic terminology and history you need to know about prostitution. The Huffington Post refers to prostitution as the world's oldest profession. Dictionary.com defines prostitution as the act of having sex in exchange for money. Now that we got that all squared out, let's go back in time for a history lesson and explore ancient Rome through the stars. TV drama Spartacus. Spartacus was set during this time period, and it mixes sex and violence, a deadly combination. The show also gives a glimpse inside the ancient Roman brothels. In these brothels, the men walked in, chose the woman they liked, and they engaged in intercourse with her, be it in the room off to the side or in the tables, anywhere. Anything went. It also offers another glimpse into how prostitution worked. Prostitution in the ancient Roman Empire during the gladiator era was perceived as a way to pay their gladiators for their battles and their victories. They offered it as either you accept the coin or we can give you a woman, whatever you like. Now, however, as centuries pass by, let's shift gears and now add a new variable in our modern prostitution equation. This new variable is the pimp. Now, the pimp is usually the guy you see in the movies with the fur sweatsuit on, or a puffy jacket, or he has like a perm, a crazy hairstyle, lots of jewelry. He's the one that's making all the money off of the prostitutes. Illegally, of course. Now, according to the Huffington Post, his salary depends on what area he lives in or where he pimps his women out. One example is Kansas City, Missouri. His weekly salary, the average weekly salary for him would be up to $5,500. Now, if he was pimping his prostitutes out in Atlanta, Georgia, his wage would multiply by 7 and he would receive $35,500 weekly just by prostituting his women. The pimp therefore keeps a large piece of the pie while the prostitute is left without the full pie. Now, one state that is trying to cut out the pimp from all this mix is Nevada. According to CNN.com, Nevada allows brothels to be functioning in counties with populations less than 700,000. So this means that unfortunately on the Las Vegas Strip it is illegal. So in conclusion, prostitution is the world's oldest profession, and as centuries has passed by, it has changed dramatically. Now, I'm going to hand things over to Adrina, and she will dive into the brothels that I mentioned earlier.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adrina, and I'm going to be sharing my 3 main points of why prostitution should be legal. My 3 main points are how it became in the early 1970s and how media affects showing prostitution, and also how money is flowing into the economy. To introduce my topic, according to Kate Hyobrick from the University of Las Vegas, countries have been legalizing prostitution since the early 1970s. Since then, they have been gathering an economic benefit from a variety of brothel-related revenue sources, including licensing fees, property tax, card fees, and liquor licenses. This was founded by Louis Gormley. Also, just to keep in mind, a brothel is a house where men are allowed to go and get pleasure from women, which are called prostitutes. So throughout my presentation, I will be saying brothel houses, and that is basically, for example, it could be a bunny ranch. For my first main point, I will be talking about how prostitution became in 1970. My first main point, from New Amsterdam to the Louisiana colony to San Francisco's gold rush founding, historians have identified prostitutes as women who make some or all of their earnings selling sex, as a term known as sex worker. For my first subpoint, many massage parlors became brothels in 1970. In 1970, Nevada began regulation of houses of prostitution. In 1971, the Mustang Ranch became Nevada's first licensed brothel, located in just 8 countries in the state. In other countries, like Nevada, prostitution and solicitation are misdemeanor crimes. For my second subpoint, a brothel licensed in Nevada may not be operated within 400 yards of a school, house of worship, and your building cannot front or have exits onto a personal business street anywhere in the state. Anyone arrested for prostitution must submit to a test to detect exposure to human immunodeficiency virus, also known as HIV. Anyone who engages in prostitution after knowing that they have already been HIV positive will be charged with a felony. In the appeals court ruled unanimous decision, stated Nevada's advertising restrictions targeted pure commercial speech. The court, citing decisions in other courts, said the First Amendment doesn't come into play in giving states the right to oversee commercial product services. Nevada has chosen not to ban houses of prostitution, but imposing regulations to prevent the spread of sexually transmitted diseases, which means that each person that is in the prostitution housing must get tested for HIV, which is human immunodeficiency disease. For my second point, I will be talking about how prostitution advertises. For my first main point, brothel owners are now advertising directly to market their services. Although during a 2010 federal court appeal ruled that Nevada has the right to ban certain advertisements of legal brothels, saying it doesn't violate the First Amendment of free speech. For my first subpoint, Federal District Judge James Mahan of Las Vegas held the state to not have the right to impose the restrictions on advertisements. The suit challenging the limits on advertisements were brought by the Las Vegas City Life newspaper. My second subpoint, Judge Mahan ruled unconstitutional. Judge Marcia in the appeals court ruled unanimous decision. Going back to gas prices, if gas prices are cheaper, the rate of percent for businesses from truckers will increase. Right now it is at 60%, and if gas prices are lowered, it could be up to 70 or 80. $50 million generates in total revenue and have an economic impact of about $400 million on the state. If prostitution is legal, there would be more than $400 million and more than $50 million.
According to the U.S. debt clock, the United States is currently $19 trillion in debt. If we were to legalize prostitution, then the government could pull all of the tax revenue from it and begin to take America out of its insane debt. Now, yes, obviously, it would not completely pull us out since we are too far deep to have anything really fix it, but it is definitely a good starting ground. If prostitution were legalized, then the government could pull the tax revenue from it and make America millions and millions of dollars. Also, if it were to be legalized, it would obviously no longer be a crime, so there would be no reason for our taxpayers to continue to pay the fee that it takes to keep a prostitute behind bars. Research shows that legalizing prostitution can have significant financial benefits. So, with all of this being said, how much does a prostitute make in a year? The Static Brain website shows that a prostitute can make around $290,000 a year. That same website also mentions that there are currently 40 million prostitutes in America. So if you think about it, we have 40 million prostitutes making $290,000 a year. How much money is that going to be exactly? Could definitely be a good way to pull us out of our debt. So if prostitution were to be legalized, how would this affect the jail costs? The annual cost of keeping a prostitute in jail is around $200 million, according to staticbrain.com. If prostitution were to be legalized everywhere in the U.S., then taxpayers would save millions of dollars because it would obviously not be illegal, so there would be no reason to keep them in jail. According to Texas Watchdog, a local Harris County jail in Texas County charges $50 a day for a prostitute to stay behind bars. Like Adrena had mentioned, prostitution has already been legalized in other areas. Since prostitution is already legalized in certain counties in Nevada, we can see just how it would be to get our tax revenue from it if we were to legalize it in all 50 states. Elite Daily says that legal brothels in Nevada can make around $50 million a year. The website also says that since it is not legal for all of Nevada, that the brothels do not have to pay taxes to the entire state itself. However, since it does want to pull some tax revenue from it, it pays taxes to the local areas in which they are located. And since they are rural areas, this definitely helps them out a lot. As you can see, the tax revenue that America could get from legalizing prostitution could help pull us out of our debt, or at least begin to. If prostitution were legalized, then the government could pull all of the tax revenue from it and make us millions and millions of dollars. And there would be no reason for taxpayers to continue to pay ridiculous jail fees because prostitution would no longer be a crime, so there would be no reason to keep them behind bars. Now, not only will there be significant financial benefits for legalizing prostitution, but there is also a great chance that the crime rate will significantly go down, and Navpreet can explain to you why and how that is possible.
Today, I'll be talking about the violence and crimes that occur with prostitution. With the legal prostitution, there comes violence and crime. Although prostitution itself is a crime in most places, there are far more worse crimes that occur with prostitution than what the prostitutes themselves are doing. When we legalize prostitution, a lot of the violence and various different crime rates would go down. Legalizing prostitution would decrease organized crime related to it, decrease the physical violence, create a safe environment where police can ensure safety. And according to legal resources, the death rate for prostitutes is 204 out of every 100,000, higher than any other jobs. This makes it the most dangerous job in the U.S. due to the high death rate and barriers to the violence and abuse that most of these prostitutes face. It is not recognized like other jobs since it is illegal, and most of these deaths could have been avoided if the government regulated what goes on. Most of the prostitutes don't die of natural causes. They die of homicide and drug abuse. The first thing I'll be talking about is organized crime. Organized crime, such as human trafficking, can more easily be controlled and would slowly decrease if prostitution was legal. Currently, 20.9 million children and adults are trafficked each year. This needs to change. For illegal organizations, the continued criminalization of the prostitute allows for illegal organizations and for pimps to capitalize at the expense of others and have no concern for their prostitutes. Most importantly, underage prostitution will be tackled since regulations will be set on age. Although there are studies that show human trafficking increasing in places where prostitution was legalized, this is actually an inaccurate conclusion. It could be that human sex trafficking is increasing worldwide, and the best we can do is be able to control and limit when we legalize prostitution. In addition, pimps create the systematic, ambitious cycle of enslaving prostitutes. These pimps use drugs to lure the prostitutes and have control of them. Eventually, the women become addicted to the drugs and would do whatever it takes to get more. According to alcohol rehab, an overwhelming 40 to 85% of prostitutes are drug users. Prostitution being illegal has allowed such organized crimes to take advantage of the prostitutes and use such methods. Secondly, these prostitutes suffer many physical abuses that could be rid of if prostitution was legalized. 60 to 75% of prostitutes are raped, and they also happen to be the most raped class of women. But if we legalize prostitution, we could just drastically reduce these numbers both nationally and for just prostitutes. The overall rape rate of U.S. would decrease sharply by 25%. As a matter of fact, it has already decreased in other places where prostitution was legal. Similarly, there is a high chance of being assaulted and battered in prostitution, and death is also a possibility. Specifically, one prostitute shares that she has been shot 5 times, stabbed more than 13 times, beaten unconscious several times, had arm, nose broken, had 2 teeth knocked out, all during her time as being a prostitute. An alarming 70 to 95% of prostitutes face some sort of physical assault like this: hair being pulled, having black eye, and various other assaults. This clearly shows how dangerous and horrifying being a prostitute is. What is more is she spent several days in jail. Also, as I previously mentioned, prostitution has very high death rates. According to the sex workers outreach program, prostitutes are 400 times more likely to be murdered on a job than the average worker, making it the most dangerous job in the world. Specifically, in 2013, the U.S. had the most murdered prostitutes in the world. In short, the sex workers outreach project states that the prostitutes in the U.S. face more violence and abuse than in countries where prostitution is legal. Lastly, if we legalize prostitution, we create a safe environment where police can ensure safety. For example, if a prostitute was having a problem with a client, they could call the police, which could reduce the physical violence. Before they couldn't, because they were also committing a crime themselves. Basically, they would be stuck and have no one to turn to. This would change where a prostitute could go to the police for help and not worry or be afraid of them. Also, currently, resources are being wasted arresting more prostitutes than pimps or madams. And according to humantrafficking.org, when prostitutes are arrested by police and tell them what happened, the police respond by saying, "What did you expect?" and don't try to help them. This is only benefiting the pimps since they are allowed to get away with their crimes. In fact, a client named Gary killed 48 women who were prostitutes because he could get away with it. And he did it for 20 years until he was finally committed. Also, the prostitutes end up getting punished while their clients get away with everything. As I previously mentioned, how that one prostitute faced so much physical assault, yet she was the one that spent countless days in jail. In the end, prostitutes are the victims that need help, and when we legalize prostitution, we can focus our time catching the real criminals. In conclusion, prostitution would decrease organized crime related to it, decrease the physical violence, and create a safe environment where police can ensure safety. A pattern worth noting is that prostitutes never do anything wrong or harmful. They just sell sex. It is the pimps or clients that cause all the violence and harm. This all happens because prostitution is legal, which then allows for other illegal things to happen. In order to protect these innocent lives, we need to legalize prostitution. We either choose to let the prostitutes die at the hands of the criminals, or we protect them and focus on getting the real criminals.
Legalizing prostitution actually has good benefits. If prostitution was to be legalized, the HIV and STD ratings will go down, and there's many good benefits to it. According to a survey taken in Nevada where prostitution is legalized, the HIV rating went down by 33%. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about all the good benefits of legalizing prostitution. Legalizing prostitution will help sex workers much safer. If prostitution is legalized, it will be mandatory for them to wear condoms. This will help prevent them from getting any STDs. The transmission of HIV will reduce by 33 to 46%. It will also be mandatory for them to have weekly STD testing. This will be for if they have STDs or HIV, it will prevent other people from getting HIV or STDs. This will actually be very easy for them to adjust into their lives because after all, prostitutes want the money. They don't want disease. Now I will be talking about health benefits. Having an easy way to have sex can help the body. According to Dr. Erwin Goldstein, he said that sex is the key to a healthy life. People who have sex often actually have a higher amount of IgA, which is the first defense of fighting flus and colds. So if you have easy access to prostitution, you will actually be much healthier. For women, having sex can lower the chances of getting breast cancer. It can also lower the chances of getting negative menopause symptoms, and it could help with your menstrual cycle. So if you're a prostitute and you have really bad cramps and stuff because of your period, you could really just have a lot of sex, and after all, you're actually getting paid for it, so it's pretty good. And also for the men, having a lot of sex could lower the chances of getting prostate cancer. So let's say you're single and you don't have a girl, well, you could easily go to a prostitute and have sex and lower your chances of getting prostate cancer. After all, this is for your health, right? You don't want any prostate cancer. And then also, having sex can get you in a good mood. Everybody knows this. For some of you guys, sex is very hard to get, maybe because you aren't attractive, or maybe you just can't get girls or anything. So it's the easiest way to get sex, it will be by buying it. You may be spending money, but at least at the end of the day, you will end up being happy. You will be in a good mood. So that's actually a very good way for prostitutes to get money and for men to be happy. So in conclusion, prostitution has worked in Nevada, so there's a big chance it will be able to work throughout the whole US. It has many benefits for the economy, and also it will reduce crimes such as trafficking, and there's many health benefits to it. So legalizing prostitution will be very good for the US, so go prostitutes!